Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Jea and JP's vidcast, a series of video podcasts designed to disrupt your current ways of thinking and breathe new perspectives into your life. This week, I am over the moon excited to introduce you to one of my favorite tools. It is called a behavior over time graph. These graphs help you visually represent changes that are occurring over time and help you depict patterns of behavior that you want to explore and understand deeper, allowing you to focus on patterns rather than isolated events that occur in your life. This will allow you to see the interdependent dynamic relationships that exist to help you shift your thinking and improve your outcomes. Let's explore a few examples. On the left, you'll see a behavior over time graph capturing the amount of savings that Joe possessed between 1990 and 2000. On the right, you'll see a graph that shows fear over the duration of a movie. I want to share an example that I often use with my students, whether working with 6-year-olds or 60-year-olds. These 9 behavior over time graphs that you see on your screen all apply to the principle of success. Here you'll notice that we are going to focus on success. Overall, my goal as an achievement coach is to increase an individual's success at any given point in time. You can draw that line in many different ways. I chose to draw it representing a few of the bumps in the road that occur naturally on the pathway to success, but that there's overall an upward trajectory, demonstrating that success is increasing over time. So let's dive into a few of the variables that can increase your success. Questioning. The more questions we ask, the more understanding we gain. So you'll see questioning increasing over time and our understanding or level of knowledge also increasing over time. Another thing that allows us to be successful is to focus our attention. To focus our attention on our priorities, to focus our attention on positivity, to focus our attention on the skills and knowledge that we need to achieve our goals. On-task behavior. Behaviors that are focused towards achieving your goal. Those also need to be increasing over time. I chose to put a little dip in that graph just to represent that I'm not on task all the time. So that moment in time actually demonstrates a portion of time where I wasn't focused towards my goal. Maybe I was focused on cleaning my house or playing with my daughter or something that is unrelated towards the actual desired outcome that I'm trying to achieve in my business or in my classroom. Another thing that's important to note is the more success you have, the more choices you have for your future. I think it's critical that we teach our children that their success puts them in the driver's seat of their destiny. Another critical element or variable that leads to success is effort. It takes hard work to get there. Not all the time, but sometimes. And hard work is going to be very personalized and individual. So that line, for me, shows hard work increasing over time. However, let's say we were talking about running a marathon. A pro athlete may have a very low degree of effort preparing for that, whereas someone like me would have to exert an extremely high amount of effort preparing for that. So these graphs can be personalized and designed in direct relation to the context that you're living. Being willing to work cooperatively. Another key variable in our global economy. The better you can work with others with compassion and empathy and understanding, the more likely you are to succeed. And then the other that is absolutely critical, one thing I know for sure, is using positive self-talk increases your success. This is the fake it till you make it principle. Sometimes you got to tell yourself you can, even when you're not sure, or when you truly believe you can't. And so this line shows that positive self-talk is increasing over time, yet also depicts an event where maybe there was a little less positive self-talk and then the individual chose to use more self-talk to rise and overcome. So those are a few sketches or examples of the variables that lead to success. Let's look at a different story. We could also measure our level of self-awareness over time. In this graph, I've depicted my own levels of self-awareness from childhood until today. So notice that that time variable could be a day, a week, a month. In my case, in this example, I'm going to use a lifetime. At the beginning of my life, I would say that as a child, I was always fairly aware of what was going on around me, but nowhere near the same level of self-awareness as I have today. That grew over time with one moment where I was maybe more focused on others and less focused on myself, which is represented by the dip in the graph. And then really coming across resources to support my meditation and yoga practice that started to skyrocket my level of self-awareness. And one more example to close this mini lesson. Let's say I want to focus on optimism. I know that optimism allows me to live and lead my best life. As my optimism increases, my success increases, my confidence increases. Overall, my levels of frustration decrease because I have a better perspective on the events and challenges that I'm facing. My self-efficacy also increases, my beliefs that I can do it. My enthusiasm for achieving my goals also increases. Failure is always a bumpy ride. Personally, I choose to live at the edge of my comfort zone. I think that's where the magic happens. I think it is what allows me to be successful. So I've shown that failure overall decreases over time with optimism because I've learned to build a relationship with it. But that also my feelings of inadequacy kind of mirror my experiences with failure. The more failure I have, the more inadequate I feel. And then I have to use my optimism to keep that feeling of inadequacy in check and decreasing over time. This week wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you homework. This week's homework is to create behavior over time graphs that describe observations of your own behaviors. As you're creating these graphs, the y-axis will be something that you've observed changing over time, and the x-axis will be your time interval. This could be hourly across a day, it could be multiple days, it could be weeks, months, or years. I would encourage you to review the examples and then start sketching some in your journal. What kinds of things do you notice in your life? Another thing I like to do, let's say I'm taking a graph of parenting, and I graph celebrations and frustrations. I may have celebrations increasing over time because I am so incredibly proud of the things my daughter is achieving and learning as she grows older. And I might have frustration decreasing over time. And there may be one point that's highest on that graph. It would have probably been sometime when Gigi was 4, because that was a really pivotal year in her growth where she really wanted her way all the time and didn't understand other priorities and events that were occurring in our life. So I may label one point on that graph and choose to describe it in greater detail and write about it. So for homework, I encourage you to get out there, sketch some graphs, and then maybe explore a moment in time on one of those graphs and use that as an inspiration to journal and grow in your own self-awareness and understanding so that you may walk the world with greater optimism, going out and shining your love and light into the world. We need you to show up with your best self.